Now, at some point, the discussion about the authors panel is going to begin. And everything that I'm saying here only applies if you deserve to be on the authors panel, if you've contributed enough that you deserve to be up there. First, be the person who initiates the discussion about the authors panel, and do so in front of the entire group if you've developed a good rapport with most of the delegates. As you begin the discussion, be sure to note the contributions of others who deserve to be on the authors panel. Don't try and exclude people from the authors panel who deserve to be there. Be sure to note the contributions of delegates who don't deserve to be, but have contributed to the working paper. Let them know that you understand their ideas and their proposals and plan to explain them and plan to credit them when you're on the authors panel. Start the discussion about the authors panel from the beginning, especially if you notice a large portion of your group is from the same school or from allied schools. Unfortunately, some schools train to sort of get together and try and exclude delegates from the authors panel. Again, unfortunately, oftentimes community college students are the ones who are excluded. You've got to stand up for yourself. If you've contributed a lot, you can turn on the revision history that I talked about before and use the sheer amount of the content to your advantage to take your spot on the authors panel. Now, this requires an agreeable group. Now, if you find you're being pushed off the authors panel, first I want you to know that this happens for a number of reasons. Delegates form a clique. Sometimes it'll be delegates from the same school sticking together. Sometimes it'll be delegates from four-year institutions sticking together, especially delegates who know each other from previous Model United Nations conferences. These delegates may try to have you voted off the authors panel. That's why it's a good idea, if you know most of the delegates and have got their support, that you can, if need be, if it goes to a vote, hopefully you'll win. There's certainly no guarantee. Now, cliques are generally small in size, but powerful because of their solidarity, right? If you can't beat them in the solidarity game, you can try and beat them in the numbers game by simply having more people on the working group who are going to support your inclusion on the authors panel. So if you've developed a good rapport, that might help you. The more delegates, as I said before, the more delegates feel trusted and respected by you, the more likely they will to support your inclusion. But if none of this works, and you get pushed off the authors panel unfairly, one of the things you can do is let the delegates know that you intend to walk to the front of the room when the chair calls for the authors panel. Explain to everybody, the authors panel is not a popularity contest. Describe your contributions to the draft resolution, identify specific proposals, and ask other delegates to explain their contributions, especially someone who you don't think deserves to be on the authors panel. Again, be worried about going to a vote because you never know how that's going to go out. But the key is to put the onus on them to justify their presence. If you belong on the authors panel, behave accordingly. Don't take any shit. Now, the last part about the authors panel that I want to talk about is what to do when you're in the audience, right? So the authors panel goes up, they explain the provisions of their draft resolution, and then delegates get to ask questions. Now, if you've been paying attention to what other draft resolutions are proposing, that you should have some understanding of the other draft resolutions. So what you can do in terms of asking questions is ask respectful questions, diplomatic questions that identify a section that's problematic to you. The more precise the question, the harder it is to answer. So you can ask delegates, in operative number 3.4, it states this, but what about this? Good things to target can be major redundancies. If there are already existing programs or bodies dealing with the issue, point that out and maybe ask, how do they differ from this body that's already doing it? If there are provisions that violate sovereignty, if there are clauses that violate the UN Charter or if there's insufficient funding. Anything that you can criticize like that, but be specific and be precise. You don't get follow-up questions. The key is to ask questions that draw a distinction between your draft resolution and other draft resolutions. You want to ask questions that identify problems with the other draft resolutions, but your goal isn't to humiliate anybody, but rather to demonstrate to the chairs your understanding of not only your draft resolution, but the other draft resolutions and the topic as a whole. And that's it for authors panel. It's weird. It's kind of high schoolish. It can be painful. So you have to do what you can to protect yourself from the beginning.